I'm Norman, a social work student. Joining me today is my older brother, Simon, a Red Seal tradesman.
Heyo.
Today we're reviewing my social work ethics class. In my reviews, I just provide my notes on readings. I don't really go into slides or the actual lectures, just in case it's proprietary.
Fucking hope not.
You know what I mean? I only take content from the readings just in case it's a professor's hey, I made that, give me credit or whatever. I just use published readings. History of ethics in social work. We have a few pioneers of ethical history. We have Octavia Hill, who had a vision of helping the worthy poor with family visits, that thing that we talked about before, where it's oh, you're gonna learn through my aura how to be a better person and not be poor anymore, that stupid bullshit.
Yeah, it was they had they just had it backwards, being fancy is a symptom of being rich, but they're oh, it's the cause of being rich.
Yeah. And she argued against government welfare because she feared encouraging laziness and dependency. And we have Charlotte.
This is the oldest concept on earth. You can't help them.
It's still going on though.
Oh, I know, but that's, of course.
Then we have Charlotte Whitten. So Charlotte Whitten was the director of Canadian Council of Social Development. She pushed to make social work more scientifically backed, making it more rigorous and closer to psychology or other sciences, so it would be a bit more respected. And that inadvertently made social work just a lot more bureaucratic, a lot more red tape, and a lot more government control over child welfare. So that kind of backfired on her, but it backfired in more ways, which we'll get to. She was an advocate for women. She judged poor parents harshly. She was against child immigration based on race. So she was racist. She was genetic determinist. She was against unemployment assistance, family allowance, and divorce. And she was ultimately forced to resign because she lacked formal social work training.
No.
So she's the one who's let's formalize this, and then obviously kind of thinking she's gonna get grandfathered in, and they're you didn't attend.
That is actually insane. They didn't just let her stay. I mean, she should have been fired for every other reason, but
we have Jane Wisdom, who is a director of a counseling agency for young unwed mothers toward their redemption citizenships. So kind of just blaming them for being unwed and trying to redeem them, which kind of just sounds ridiculous. Somebody named J.J. Kelso, who is kind of a fly by the seat of your pants philanthropist, helping people, just kind of oh, this person needs help, I'll save them. Oh, I feel bad for this person. Kind of doing it one at a time, not systematic or organized. So people dump on her for that. We have the famous five famous Albertan women. They were first wave feminists, and they had a lot to do with social reform. They were seen as very forward thinking and on the left side, even though they were also hella into eugenics. They promoted Anglo-Saxon values, restricting rights based on race, eugenics, marriage restriction, and their argument for women's rights were based on the inferiority of other races. So it was kind of how could you let black people do this if we don't let women do it? You're gonna let inferior races do this, but you won't even let white women do it? So, using the inferiority, the supposed inferiority of other races to boost women up, the women punching down on other races to bring up women. It's well, then you're punching down on every other woman.
It's a Supreme Court case that happened however many years ago, where they took it all the way up to the Supreme Court. It was actually a man who had to do it for his wife. Why can't she vote? I can't, based off these laws and this and this and this, why can't she vote? And that woman was strictly no blacks, and it was it is just so funny to be part of a huge progressive feminist moment and just also be known for being super racist too at the same time. But I think that was pretty across the board.
I'm just fighting for equality and fairness. But there are some things we can agree on here, right? It's okay. It's a universal truth. There's some universal truths, my wife should have this fairness, and there's other universal truths of people who shouldn't have these rights. sign of the times or something. It's another part of the history dealing with difference. So some of the ones we can gloss over because we cover in other episodes, or they're just like much more widely known. So things like residential schools, the 60s scoop, Japanese internment, like those are pretty deep in our history and popular enough, and stuff that we talk about on this podcast already. One that I didn't know about was the Sons of Freedom dokubors, minimalist nudist culture that moved to Canada from Russia, and they kept on getting in trouble for being nudists.
Having their hogs hanging.
Yeah, they kept getting in trouble for it, and then
They're like, what do you want from us?
Put that thing away, brother, when you're speaking to me.
Other than that.
So then Canada just made prisons for them so they could just like arrest them for civil disobedience, and then they started putting their kids in child welfare. And social work was like, oh, we can help. Like, we'll help take the children and stuff like that. So it's like,
Everything else aside, just fucking put some clothes on. If you want to be a nudist, I don't give a fuck. But if the government's coming after you, are you going to lose your children over that? Put some fucking clothes on. My God. That's an insane hill to die on. I will not put this thing away for anything. And it's like, you're in Canada. Like, how many months a year can you even do that?
It's kind of a good question. Like, what concessions would I not be willing to make? But I mean, I don't really have anything too personal to me that I'd be like, oh, I can't lose that. Like, you know, I don't.
Yeah, like, what would I be willing to go to jail over? Not fucking have my cock out. Especially, it's like they kept getting in trouble, and the police were just like, oh my God, good God, like, let's create a special jail for these guys. It's like, how much of this was going on? They built a fucking jail for them?
In the textbook, it didn't like describe like, oh, if it was like a really serious part of like their identity, or if it was like a religion or a cultural thing. Like, I don't know. So kind of a lack in the book to me. We also have British home children. So it said like over 100,000 kids were taken from the UK and sent to work on farms in Canada and stuff, mostly just because like their parents were sick or died or something like that. So they'd take them and be like, you're going on a farm. And they were sent by like charities and stuff like that. We're doing good work here. And like, you know, if they were getting paid to work on the farms, or like if you knew like what farm you're sending them to, but you don't know what's going to happen. You just send them to another country to work on a farm because their parents died. It's like, that was your idea of welfare back then? They're like, hey, there's this brand new country, and
let's bring some slaves over. That is fucking crazy to call that charity. It's like, what would you call just business? You know, like, we're scooping up orphans and turning them into slaves. Like, and they're like, that I do as a side thing just to be nice. What I do for my real work is when I'm killing the orphans, you know?
Because it's like obviously a way of just getting rid of children. That's the benefit, is like, oh, we don't have to take care of them.
You're taking the responsibility off the UK, and then you're giving free labor to Canada, and it's just like, where's the charity?
Another thing is like the perception of women in our history of ethics. So it's common to blame and pathologize women, especially unwed mothers. So it says that women should hold themselves accountable for things that happen to them and their children. And a developmental expert named Bowlby declared unwed mothers are unfit to be parents, and their children should be adopted. Unwed women have babies because they're rebellious, they're feeble-minded, they have personality deficits, they're neurotic, or they have a breakdown in morality. This section is like, wait, what do you mean the history is just like all this bad stuff about social work? In the class, they really like to, like in social work as a whole, in my experience, they really like to highlight that like, hey, like our roots are pretty tainted. Like, it's like not all that sick, actually. We don't have the best history, and like they like to make that clear to us, so that I guess so we don't get all high and mighty and like, oh, we were social workers and we've been like making the world a better place. So
it's good, but it's like, it's a little too much. You know, it's like someone being humble, and you're like, yeah, you know, that guy's down to earth. And then he's like, I shit my pants. The guy at first, he's like, you know, I'm not the best, but I try my best, right? That's what I do. And I like that attitude. And then he's like, but everything I do is shit. And you're like, okay, yeah, I like the humility. But when you're just like, I'm a piece of shit, it's kind of like, why do I want to have anything to do with you? You know, there's a fine line. That's social work, is like, first we kidnap them, then we kill them, and then we pat ourselves on the back about it, and then here we are. And it's like, what? Like, I don't want to fucking be here.
When you're signing up to be a social worker, you're applying. It's not like, hey, you're gonna learn, like, part of the thing is to feel like a scumbag for even wanting to be a social worker. And it is. It's a big part of it. You are a piece of shit and tell me why. And there's some assignments, like maybe in this episode, definitely in other ones, we'll get into like how to do well on an assignment.
Hate yourself.
Blame yourself for things that are going wrong in the world today based on your identity. And like I get really good grades for doing that.
White man, cause of problems, A++.
All right, now let's get into ethics theories.
Okay.
Or the good stuff, whatever you want.
My theory on ethics.
Yeah.
Do unto others.
It's so great that you said that, actually. Virtue-based perspectives. So there's a lot of do good, be good, consider the vulnerable, check your privilege,
Virtue signaling.
Fight injustice, create an environment of good people. And one of them, I just picked Kantian ethics because the textbook just makes it seem like it really aligns with that, which is basically do unto others. And they like it for uniformity, predictability, and universality. Basically just meaning like everybody's going to act the same, you know how people are going to act, and the rules are fixed and not like they don't change based on circumstance. There's another idea that they have. This one's pretty big for social work because they use it to condemn all the social workers. So the idea that you don't have any responsibility for something if you weren't born when it happened. So for example, residential schools are just like the way that we've treated indigenous people. And they say, no, you are responsible because it like provides you privilege. Like people being lower than you inherently makes you higher.
Well, it's one thing that's so funny is like, you know, like the Doge deposition, the guys that were working for Elon Musk are getting like sued, so they're being deposed. And there's just one guy who's like so against DEI. He's like, it should be merit-based, meritocracy, da-da-da. And they're like, and how did you get this job? And he's like, the hiring manager was my friend's dad. Like, it was just like, honestly, I would just lie under oath if that was me. I was like, I had the highest grades.
We have something called John Rawls' Kantian contractualism. It has two principles of justice, which is to maximize opportunity for everyone and raise the least advantaged people as high as possible. And part of this is kind of like a hypothetical. Imagine if you didn't know where you were on the social hierarchy scale. You were blind to it, like everybody, nobody knew. And then you have to pick like, what are we going to make the lowest of the low? Like how low is that threshold? It's like, well, everybody would pick for it to be as high as possible, because if you thought that you weren't going to be part of the 1%, then you're like, well, I don't want to get fucked over.
Interesting theory. Like imagine before you got your rollout, you know, it's like a D&D. Before you make your guy, hey, how many points does everyone get? Yeah, imagine the world was like that. It's like, yeah, cute thought.
That'll be an pretty present theme, is like cute thought, like nice try.
It's goddamn. It's so fucking stupid. Yeah, here's a thought. Imagine you were the poor guy. Not so fucking fun now. I bet you think a little higher of the poor now that you're the poor guy. It's like, yeah. And then we got, oh, here's another fucking 20 hypotheticals. Imagine you lost all your money tomorrow. And then what? You're the poor guy. I guess it's kind of like my last one. Think about that's deep.
All right, now we'll get into managerialism and new public management. I'll just refer to them both as managerialism. It's a shift in social work and social services, and it makes work more scripted and standardized. There's less room for creative and critical work or change to policy and social practice. It makes work more alienating, repetitive, neglectful, and controlling. And it claims to cut costs and increase proficiency, but actually does the opposite. It's promoted by the government because of the ideology rather than meeting needs, saving money, or actually providing better services. So it's moving to align with like profit-based frameworks because it's hip, even though it worsens outcomes. So for example, support programs typically have like limited eligibility and are time limited. And like if you think of most problems, say like you're trying to get counseling or something for like anxiety or depression, and they'll just make it like a 12-week or an 8-week program. It's like, do you really think that's going to be the thing? But if you're following like a profit-based thing, it's like, okay, if we're going to follow a profit company, they're going to like really standardize everything, make it systematic and like chunk it out. So that way you can just like repeat it and get like tons of workers to do it, rather than it being like, feel it out. How much help does this person need? How can we help them? Let's make it more adaptive and like, use the expertise of the worker. And it's favored by neoliberalism. So the government adopts these policies that protect the interests of corporations and cuts social services. It says that the Great Depression, the 2008 bubble, those are examples of neoliberalism that doesn't help the average person, mostly just the 1%. And this kind of makes me think of a spin-off episode that Simon's going to host, where it's like we're just kind of doing it because it aligns with like conservatism.
Just like so much stuff conservatives do, it's just based off of like abstract thoughts. So much conservative argument is like, oh, you're so naive, you don't understand how the world works, and then they just say conservative policy. You didn't make any arguments there. You're like, oh, you think you could just feed the poor? No. You cannot. But yeah, it is just like, oh, here we go. You think we could do this in a non-capitalist way? Let's see how they did in Russia. Now you want us to do that? Next thing you know, we'll be invading Ukraine. What do you think of that?
We will.
We'll turn right into Russia and be doing what they're doing.
Yeah, so just like taking on private sector policies and like what works best for them. You're not trying to create repeat customers in social welfare. You don't want them coming back again and like in and out as fast as possible, because like, oh, that's actually what you want as a business. You want people coming in and coming out and like really standardize everything and faster and smoother. But it's like ideally people don't have to come back in. You want the service to burn itself out because you do so well. You're so effective at like making people not need you, which businesses don't want that. Managerialism has also increased a lot of discipline measures, and you have to do like way more documentation as well. And it's like impossible to break up all the activities that you do as a professional helper, like relationship building or empathy, networking, activism, like those kind of things. It's like you can't just break that down and be like, yeah, I did like 2 or 3 of those. You know what I mean? Like, how do you like do empathy, and how do you quantify it? Or like relationship building rapport, making people feel safe and valued, and like all of that. You can't. So then they just try to find like productive workers and break that down into like the quantifiable things and be like, okay, do that. So then you leave out like some of the most important aspects of like how you help people. So then it's like not incorporated into like funding, or like, when you're thinking of creating a program, those are the things you have to focus on, and you leave out all those important bits, and then people get help and they don't feel helped because they're being helped by like a robot who has to check boxes rather than like really be there for you. And I was thinking of that as a pretty good way to kind of not shut down social welfare, but really like delegitimize it. They also talk about like the de-skilling of work, which is like, once you break down the roles like really simply and concretely, then you can hire like less skilled workers or even like volunteers and stuff. What that's going to do is like the really highly skilled workers are going to get fed up, be like, you're not letting me do my job properly. Like, I really want to help people and I'm so restricted, so I'm going to go work privately, make like way more money, actually be able to help people. And then you have volunteers or like, less skilled people coming to help people in nonprofits, and then they're not going to get helped properly because they don't have the skills. And then eventually they're going to be like, look, this social welfare thing isn't going to help. It's not doing anything.
Yeah.
They audit it and they're like, these people aren't getting help. It's a waste of money.
It is so funny to have a profession that is almost strictly vibes based and try to turn it into a mathematics. You might as well go up to like a painter or something and be like, let's turn this into a science. We want 20 guys pumping out 20 paintings like this every day. So let's watch this guy take things apart and da-da-da. And it's like, yeah, not everything's can work like that. like trying to make an assembly line out of therapy.
And then people are like, paintings kind of suck now, hey?
Paintings fucking suck, and I don't know why.
When you reduce eligibility or accessibility of services or like quality of services and everything, people are less likely to come when they're okay and they need help, and they wait until it's like really bad. And then it's much harder to treat them. They need like way more support, and it's way more expensive.
It's just like a proactive model versus like a reactive model. And if you just dumped a ton of money into proactivity, you wouldn't necessarily see the benefits, not for a while. You'd be like, oh, we're spending so much money on this. Obviously, if you were putting all this money into just healthcare, mental health, food stamps, or childcare, or all of these things, within a few years, you would start to see a big difference in the numbers. But then especially within, let's say, 30 years, if you actually put a good chunk of money into that, you could easily imagine your city would just be completely different. Right now, depending where you are, it's like, one slip and you're homeless. But, let's say where we're at, okay, it's going to be like a confluence of events that'll make you homeless, but then really hard time getting out of it or whatever. But let's say the safety net is so large that, we don't give up on you. You kind of acted like a horse's ass for a few years, and then we kept taking care of you. We kept making sure you got your medication and your therapy and had somewhere to stay, and then you smartened up. And then now, instead of having this guy who's an alcoholic, homeless guy for 60 years and then dies, he just had like a dark spot in his life for a few years when he, and you have to imagine, like, that homeless guy who's homeless for 60 years and then dies is probably going to the hospital fucking once a week for whatever reason, getting an ambulance there, costing the city fucking millions of dollars over the course of his life in, ambulance, healthcare, homeless shelter, like these things. And that if you just dumped in like a couple $100,000 on his well-being as he was young, and you prevented that path, even if all you care about is the money, it is still going to net you more money.
Yeah, they really show how much more it costs to have homeless people than to support them enough so that way they aren't homeless.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you could imagine someone who just needs an extra $500 a month and they won't be homeless. That's fuck all for the city versus an actual homeless person.
And it's such a joke because, like, even when you go back to the managerialism thing we were talking about earlier, they're like, yeah, it's proven that it wastes money, it's less effective, like it's this, it is that, and they're like, no, like, let's keep doing it. It's like, just to do it? Like, just for the sake of it? It's like a morality issue. It's like, you don't want to help them. You feel kind of like angry about giving somebody $2,000 a month or something like that. And you're like, that's what really pisses me off because I have a job.
Yeah, someone like receiving something that you feel they didn't deserve is like so offensive to you that you would rather spend money on their downfall.
Like that thing with the school loans forgiveness. You heard about people getting fucking torqued about that. They're like, I wanted to die because I was in debt. It was the worst thing that's ever happened to me. And you want to take that away from these people?
Oh my God. It just goes to show, like, you're like such a piece of shit. Like, with the war in Iran right now, you will see fucking weirdos that are like pro the war, and people be like, look, they hit a school with their bombs, they killed 160 little girls. I'm like, well, it's the wages of war, is it not? And then gas prices went up like 40 cents, and they were like, okay, that's where I draw the fucking line. It's like these type of people that are just, it's like a whole group of people that just have no empathy. Like, it's like, you're so worked up about spending an extra $10 a day in gas, but like the school getting blown up doesn't even make you think. You can't even say, yeah, that was bad.
Let's do some dilemmas, some ethical dilemmas. So the first one is based on a feminist student in social work who is sent to go work in a practicum to help sexual predators. It's a dilemma for her because she's like, okay, like, as a feminist, I really stand against these offenders and I don't want to help them. But then, like, as a social worker, she has her professional ethics, and it's like, okay, I have to stand by these ethics and values that say, like, everybody deserves the best treatment. So what do I do? Yeah, and like to give more context, they talk about the worker who grew up in a family that was traditional and like restricted women's freedoms. So like men were decision makers, women were judged on gender instead of their ability. And it says that there's additional sources of women's anger against men, which is like reliance on men for money, objectification, men making them fear for their safety, and being placed in positions of powerlessness. And the author says that like all of these are really personified by the offenders that she would have to work with. Then there's the other side of it where she's kind of reasoning on the other side where it's like, okay, she realizes that even if somebody was like a minor when they did their offense, they still have to register for 25 years. And there's like so much downside to having to register. Like you get shunned by the community, like everybody hates you, everybody's calling you names, nobody wants to be around you. And it's like, what's the point? Like, are they ever going to get better? Like you're never going to be able to reintegrate into society. You know what I mean? Like nobody's really going to get there. It says like acceptance and reintegration and like people actually like believing in you that you can change is like such a huge thing for reintegration, and it's like really good for the community too, apparently. So she's like, oh, I don't know what to do. And the other side is pretty common for offenders to have like childhood histories that are similar to the stuff that they do. So she's like, oh, like I need to like reanalyze my idea of like what a victim means and like what it means to be a predator.
So what's the question is, what should she do?
Yes.
Well, I guess my big question is, does she have any other option?
Doesn't say.
Because like that would be pretty important. Because if it was like she could just go and be like, not super comfortable with this, can I go work with the homeless? I'd be like, bet. Well then I've got the answer for you. If the answer is you have to do this or you fail your program.
It's like the Dokabors all over again.
It's like, well, you know, just think about hypothetical. Don't ask too many questions. There's some important questions. What are the wages here? If she doesn't do it, does she fail her program? If you've got like childhood trauma and you're not comfortable with it, in my opinion, you shouldn't have to do that. Maybe some guys can do that instead. Like,
skip it.
As far as like more broadly, I do think unless you believe sexual offenders should be in jail forever, like for the rest of their life, then you do need to believe in some form of rehabilitation. Pretty common knowledge that the best chance for not reoffending is helping them get back on their feet, not making them social pariahs, helping them get jobs. And if your thoughts are that, well, they should just be in jail for the rest of their life, I don't think that's controversial, but it is like, unless you think that, then you do need to think about rehabilitation. But as far as what this girl should do, I don't see why someone who's like borderline scared of going there it's like, yeah, maybe we could find someone else to go there. So yeah.
Pretty reasonable to me. And it's funny because like this is a paper that I'm reading written by her. The conclusion is that like I have a new self-awareness where like I internalized my judgmental behavior or like of my family, and I was putting it on other people. And it's like, even though it was like a generational thing that just was perpetuating, I was like taking how I felt about that and I was putting it on other people. But my placement forced me to like confront my biases, and like I realized that my family was doing this and I can move on. I realized that my feminist values don't like prevent me from advocating for like other people to get help. And I was like, did you like come up with this conclusion as like before you were writing the paper and like pretending to have some, like it just felt so forced to me. It's like, oh, I'm having like this big conflict, but in the end I realized, I was like, don't go. Like, why are you doing that to yourself? Like, it is nice that somebody can have a change of perspective. And if this is the truth, then it's like, oh, that's great. Like, you changed your perspective and you want to help these people. I think that's really good. If I really felt that strongly about something, I don't think I'd be like, why not give it a shot? I'd be like, well, I know I'm just going to be like antagonistic to these people because I hate them so much.
Well, and even if you weren't antagonistic, you're like just having an awful time. You're like supremely uncomfortable. Yeah, even if you weren't antagonistic, I can't imagine you'd be very good, right?
You know, I'm pretty biased. I think I get like that sense from this reading because in social work, they so often force you you to have some kind of like, how have you changed since this experience? Like, how is like, look at your social location, which would be like, hey, I grew up in this family and like we had these traditional views and this is how we saw people and this is how gender was treated, and that made me kind of come up this way and have these views. And like, how is your social location implemented in like this experience, and how has it changed you? Like, they kind of force you to come up with some fucking tragic origin story.
BS.
And be like, and now I'm different. And then they're like, bravo, Norman, A+ work. And I'm like, this is a creative writing class. This isn't like, you want to ask me how my life has changed since taking the course? Like, I'm the same guy, bro. Like I don't know what you want me to say.
Yeah, that is fucking crazy. They want like major character development every project or something.
Like, they don't explicitly say it, but you can't just be like, oh yeah, I feel the same way and I don't really think any differently. Like, I did this and I feel kind of distant from the experience. It didn't really mean that much to me. They'd be like, okay, 70%. Probably less than that. They'd be like, you didn't engage.
But then if you go on and you're like, I realized that I secretly resented the poor, even though I preached these ideals, once I went out there and learned, I realized in the past that I actually had some things I had to work out. They'd be like, there's a 92%.
I found that worked best for me, and when I was reading this person's paper, I was like, you and me both.
Oh, you had to make some shit up? My God, what a fucking non-dilemma. Ethical dilemmas are like, oh, everyone in your family's gonna die, but you can save one. Which one do you do? And then this one's like, there's a job that you don't want to do and you don't have to do. What do you do? It's like, oh my God. Oh, I don't want to work with pedophiles.
Why is it? Because you're a pedophile?
Got her. They throw her in jail.
Dilemma number 2, a social worker working at like a homeless shelter. People can only stay there for 30 days maximum. And somebody asks you like, oh, can I please stay? Like, I've got something coming up. I just need like a few more days. Then things are really going to work out for me. And then you also have your supervisor who's like really strict about you getting your paperwork done. So you have to do all your documenting. Otherwise you get like written up, you get in trouble. Yeah, so you're I didn't read the whole thing.
It's a little bit of a thinker, you know? You've got the guy who needs a place to stay, and then you've got your paperwork.
The person who wants to stay longer also needs you to meet with their lawyer. So it's like, okay, so I can't do my paperwork and help this person. So it's like, maybe I lose my job. I don't know, like if I don't do my paperwork, but I'm also supposed to kick this person out. And I can't really help them with like the lawyer thing, even though like helping them with the lawyer makes me not able to do my paperwork, and it's allowing this person to stay longer. But like if they stay a few more days, they might do pretty well. And
your boss is like, no excuses on the paperwork. Again, this is like a fucking dumb. It's not even an ethical dilemma. Oh my God. First of all, the paperwork and lawyer thing is not anything, because if you're willing to risk your job by not doing your paperwork because you care so much about the guy and the lawyer thing, just do your paperwork after hours. You have to meet the lawyer. How long is that going to take? An hour? All right, spend another hour doing your paperwork. And if you're like, hey, I don't want to work on my time off, well, clearly you don't care enough to lose your job then, right? Boom, that's dealt with. As far as risking my job to let this guy stay, no. What the hell? Hell no. You get emotionally attached to every guy that shows up at the shelter and then possibly lose your job like constantly. Like, what you would do is take that to your boss. This is a situation. I know the rules. I'm advocating for this guy. He says no. All right, well, I tried, you know? And then again, if you care so much, let the guy come stay at your place.
At your place, take him. That's fucking against the rules.
Yeah, let him come stay over, and then, well, obviously not. Yeah, because you don't care that much. This guy, he's telling you a few more days, that'll be the difference. You believe him? I wouldn't fucking believe anyone telling me that. I just need a few more days. Like, I'd be like, sure, buddy.
How often is that true for anybody? Yeah, I get what you mean.
Yeah, well, especially like guys I work with, just the bullshit they tell me. This fucking guy. Oh my God. This is a guy I like. He's an older guy I work with, and he's telling me, he's like the boss of the old company. He was trying to cut my pay. He was trying to do this and that to me. And so I quit, walked out. He kept calling me, come back, come back, come back. What would it take to get you to come back? So I told him, I want you to take a picture of you just about to suck my cock. You don't have to suck it, but you just have to take the picture. And the boss goes, oh, come on. What do you actually want? So I told him, well, I want this, this, this. And he said, okay, fine. And then came back, and that was that. And I was like, that did not happen. That fucking didn't happen. You know what? I didn't believe it for a second, but at least if the boss's response made any sense. But it was like you're gonna fucking, and he's like, oh, okay, come on. Yeah, that's how the owner of the company acts. Like, sure. Oh my God. Like, he's just telling me this, and you're just sitting there like, you're having a normal conversation. You're lying right to my fucking face. What do you think? I'm an idiot?
You think I'm gonna let you stay in the shelter for a couple more days?
Yeah.
After that?
Probably the same guy.
The same guy.
It's so funny. I tell these stories and I just always imagine one of these guys somehow watched the episode where I'm talking shit about them. Yeah. That guy would never know, but this guy would know. He'd be like, hey, that happened.
He did suck my cock. You said...
Right as I was swallowing. He did suck my... Just like elevating the lie like times 100. Oh, I swear to God, he did suck my cock.
Yeah. So you finished in his mouth.
And he thanked me. Thank you for the opportunity to have you work for me.
Then he said, now what do you really want? See, it was a stronger ethical dilemma now that you think about it. They outline a couple different paths. So one is of compliance, where you do your paperwork, you make them leave after the 30 days. They say it's harmful to service users because like little leeway can go a long way. Leaves workers feeling defeated because it's like, wow, like if only we could make like this small change, then we could do so much. And they say it can be like a strategic decision, like to be compliant while you kind of foster allies or like some kind of activism or whatever you got going on. You also have principled infidelity, where you just let them and be like, hey, whatever happens, happens. And you have conscientious objection, saying like, you know, like you said, you go to your boss, you're like, hey, this is what I really think. Yeah, you kind of hit a couple of them. Dilemma? What?
She did suck my cock. Like, just the idea that you're caught in a lie, and instead of trying to, like, downplay it, you fucking upplay it by 100 is so fucking funny. All right, number 3.
I mean, they're all basically the same. Now, this is one where, so the worker is new, and she's black, and the supervisor is white, and you have one client who's an indigenous single mother who the supervisor's like, you need to keep an eye on her because she's been, like, because she drinks. And the workers, like, kind of think that she seems like to be a pretty good mom. Like, it's not really fair that we have to keep an eye on her drinking. Like, a lot of the moms drink. The client comes to the worker and is like, I'm worried that, like, you know, they're going to take my kids away because I slipped up and I had a drink last night. The supervisor wants you to report it right away if it does happen. And the child welfare rules are that you have to report something even before you speak to your supervisor, which sounds like a lie to me, but ethical dilemma, whatever, make your own rules. And it's like, oh, so what do you do? And I'm like, so simple, don't tell it.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, unless there's some way that she can turn around and prove that she told you, like maybe if she like emailed you that I had a drink, I'd be like, well, now I have to. You fucking have it in writing, right? But like, I mean, from the sounds of this hypothetical, it's a racial thing, right? There's so much needless context. She's a black woman, so she gets it, you know. And it's another woman of color who's being stereotyped. So she's kind of on the left. It's like she didn't need to be a black woman for that, right?
Well, they talk about the like a relational aspect of ethics. She's new and she's black, so like that kind of feels like two strikes against her as a worker as far as like standing up to the boss.
Except you don't need to stand up to your boss, you just lie.
And they talk about that you have multiple clients at once because it's the mom and the child. So it's like, who are you really serving? You're trying to serve both of them at once. And you don't know, like, obviously in this scenario, you have absolutely no reason to think why the child should be taken away. Like, oh yeah, she has a drink, like, and what else?
Same with the first story. It's like I need a little more context. Is it like this woman has a series of chronic alcoholism, like charges against her, drunk in public, drunk driving, negligence to her kids? We're fucking done with her. We're like, last strike. If she drinks, she's done. You tell me that, I'm gonna be like, oh, yeah. Okay, you know, child endangerment, whatever. And like, if she has one drink, we know where she'll be in 6 weeks, right? You tell me that, I'm like, kid should probably already be out of there, right? You tell me, well, look at her. She's indigenous. One drink, we take the kids away. Yeah, like you need that context, I think, for these things.
Kind of a dumb one. So the traditional model just says, hey, look at the code of ethics, and then you'll know.
So it says tell on her.
No, I mean, that's the traditional.
Oh, I see.
But it says the code of ethics is insufficient because social workers have to limit people, but they also have to, like, promote social justice, and you have to, like, advocate for their autonomy and self-determination. So it's kind of like they both just rub up against each other, and it's like, you know, either way you lose. Like, you could make the decision, be like, I was following the code of ethics, and they'd be like, well, what about the part where it's the opposite?
Okay. Got him. Yeah. Served.
The relational aspect of with the clients, which is that like the indigenous client confides in the worker, like, hey, I did have a drink. And then you take the kid away, it's like none of the other clients are going to talk to you ever again. Like, especially like maybe they know each other. All the clients, like, you don't know how it's going. She's like, yeah, like this new worker seems nice. And like I did tell her and whatever. Then kids get taken away. They throw her into hell. And then all the other clients are like, wow, you're not to be trusted. So that'll like really ruin everything. Yeah, it just talks about the two opposing mandates, care for clients and obligation to control. And you don't know if the baby would really be better off without the parent. That's another big one.
All right, what's this next part?
So there's just something funny about cultural competency or like diversity training, that sort of stuff. It says that it's largely ineffective. It says that it increases positive attitudes towards marginalized groups, but it doesn't improve support for social justice, diversity, or equality. And it's still like a big thing in social work. So it's just dumb. So like a bunch of my courses have cited like cultural competency, like cultural humility, which one should you do, or like emphasis on diversity and like diversity training and all that. And then like you read other studies or like they'll have it in the course sometimes where it's like, yeah, it doesn't really work.
And I can't imagine anyone taking one of those courses is like, wow, I learned so much. I guess I have heard of some of those courses where they are good just in the fact that it's like, is it appropriate to touch a black woman's hair? Yes or no? And it's more just telling
you rules, so if you break them, you get in trouble.
Yeah, so it's like you have no excuse now. You know that this would not be appropriate. This would be considered like a, racist, or this would be considered sexual harassment. It's not like we need to be thinking and talking about race and da-da-da. It's more just like, here's how to not alienate your, coworkers that are minorities or whatever.
But yeah, it seems so obvious, like you said, that it wouldn't work because it's like everybody, whether you're racist or not or whatever, I think most people will go in and be like, yeah, I already know all this stuff. It isn't really, none of it's new to me. I still feel the same way. Doesn't matter like how you felt. Like you don't really ever go into some seminar and go, huh. That changed my life.
I can't imagine going to any seminar and actually learning anything.
Yeah, like for me, I think you'd only really get that from broadening your relationships. Like the kind of people that they're teaching about, like if you've never had friends with people from that group or anything, and then you start to have friends from that group, I think then you might be like, wow, yeah, okay, like there's some things that I should work on. But like just going into a seminar, like, oh, now I know something. It's like now you probably know something in a weird way that they didn't mean you to know it. And you're gonna like get, it's not gonna be good.
Yeah, I think like the only person that would really work for is someone who's like already A, totally on board, and B, has no fucking clue. Like you need like a good attitude and not to already know.
For the assignments, they're all pretty easy. The first one is just an ethical dilemma, which you've seen is like very simple. You just apply compassion and like, how would I actually want to help people? And then talk about like the code of ethics says this, but it also says that. And you kind of pretend to grapple with like, oh, it's so hard. And then you land at the conclusion, you know.
It's honestly cringe that you had to think about it for any of those.
Reflection on social location, the final assignment. This is kind of what I was talking about earlier. I think I've probably done about 10 of these, probably more, through social work, which is just like, okay, you're white, you're a man, you're this, you're that, whatever advantages you have, reflect on those and how they're bad and how they've kind of made you see the world in a bad way. Midway through the assignment, kind of get to like, and now I'm kind of rethinking how I see the world. Be self-deprecating in the beginning and then kind of like flow through it and then be like, but the reflection has made me change. Because like you can't just say like, oh no, I'm actually like pretty comfortable with who I am, and
or even like I realized this a year ago or something. No, you need to have a major life event like in the last couple days.
Get used to that. You'll get an A+ though, like it's a pretty easy formula, but you have to do many of them. Most classes you have to do one. Some classes you have to do two. You do one at the beginning of a class and then at the end. Okay, now what have you learned and how have you changed? Wow, I've changed so much. So that's like a downside of the assignment, but the good part of the assignment is that it's like so flowchart by the time you've done enough that you're like, oh wow, another reflection assignment, I can do that in like 2 hours. You fucking piss easy, you're done. All right, let's do Simon's week in review.
Safety on my site. The main safety guy, he's also like runs the job site, and he's just like, if you don't know him and didn't meet him, you wouldn't believe how ridiculous he is. He's like a cartoon character. He's just, what the fuck? And he's like 65 years old and just everything. I fucking told that guy every day that's what it was. Now look at it. Ah. And then people like give him shit back and he's like, oh, is this real? But I've been working like on the same site as him for like 2-3 months now, and it's like, yeah, nonstop. It's not a bit. Yeah, first time I met him, he comes in, goes up to my boss and he's like, good morning, you ugly son of a bitch. And, yeah, but it is just like, how much of this is a joke, I don't know.
Does he kind of sound like that?
He does. Like I do that voice at work and everyone knows like what it is. Like the biggest thing, I just say, what the fuck? And like everybody's like, oh yeah, that's it's the guy.
I'm all right. He's like, do I really sound like that?
I don't sound like that. That's not my voice. Anyway, the one thing I was going to say was just like one time, even if you're on break, you have to have your hard hat on. And one time he comes up and he catches me and my apprentice on break, and my hard hat's off, but also my boots and socks are off because I was drying them because they were soaked. And he just comes up and he's like, okay, first of all, and second of all, and also, and he's like, and we're sitting next to these heaters, and he specifically wants them in a certain place, which I didn't know. And every time I take break, I take the heaters and I don't put them back. He's like, I wanted to catch the guys who kept moving my heaters, and then you don't have your hard hat on, you don't have your shoes on. And he's like, if it was anyone other than you, I'd be tearing a strip off them. I was like, what? Why? What?
Really like me?
I was like, what? Me? What the hell? And he's like, can you please just put the heaters back? I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, just a guy fucking steam shoots out of his ears 4 times a day. He sets a trap and catches me, and he's like,
it's a trap.
And he's like, damn it, it's my favorite guy. What am I gonna do? I'm like, I've fucking spoken to you like twice. Like,
My boots and socks.
I know, I was like,
That's my like on the job type barefoot.
it's like, oh no. But yeah, I was absolutely fucking soaked. Anyway, there's like a third party safety that comes to site. The third party safety is kind of like outside of everyone's control. Like the big boss could be like, you know, get the fuck out of here. And they'd be like, fuck you, make me, you know? So anyway, it's this woman and everybody's so scared of her, including that guy, even though he's big on safety. And she showed up and we had like all our safety stuff was like on point. She looked over everything and she's like, oh yeah, it's good. Good. And then she came over and talked to me and she was like, yeah, your harness isn't quite like snug enough. It's not quite tight enough. And I was like, oh yeah, damn. And then I just kind of got to talking to her. She was actually like super nice. I talked to her for like 5 minutes. Later on, my apprentice comes up to me and he's like, were you getting in trouble from the safety lady? And I was like, she's asking for my number. And he's like, no. And I was like, no. And then he's like, no, I didn't fucking believe you. And I was like, you did. And I was like, not for a second, maybe half a second. He just like immediately admits it. And
Yeah, I like when people are like open to admitting stuff like that. That reminds me of like one of my late friends. I get such a kick out of him just admitting to a lie if you called him on it. Or you're like, yeah, well, you're lying to me. And he goes, yeah. It's like I get a kick out of that. And it kind of helped me realize like, oh yeah, I can, like it helped me be more comfortable with like coming clean with stuff too. It's like, oh, it doesn't have to be so bad. Like sometimes you just go, oh, why did I say that?
it's like anything, like to admit to someone like, yeah, I kind of lost my cool when I did, you know, like whatever, or like I was kind of just feeling left out, and so I did that.
I was
like,
feeling jealous.
Yeah, like any one of those things, like, oh, I'd rather fucking die than admit to that, you know? And then it's like, oh, it's actually fine, and people will be like, yeah, that makes sense.
And it's endearing too.
Yeah, but like that is how I've always felt, even up until now. Like it's something I, you know, come a long way with on. But it is just funny because like the idea of just saying to someone, well, I was mad at you, so that's why I was kind of acting like a baby, you know?
Acting a little irrationally.
Yeah. Well, I guess I just thought, why wasn't I invited? You know, like the idea of saying that, I'm like, yeah, rather shoot my dick off. Like, I just thought everyone was invited but me, which is fine.
But it did make me act a certain way.
Act a certain way is like, yeah, that's why we're having this conversation. Okay, well, I hope that was like fucking awesome to listen to. Now, here's something that's not a dilemma. Joining our Patreon. You don't need to be at the $40 tier. There's the lower tier, which is just 20 cents a month. And that gets you just about everything the high tier does, minus the cup and limited access to the hat. And then there is our mid-member patron, and that's just $1 a month. So, and that gets you everything the $40 a month one does. So, and actually, if you noticed on our Patreon, $40 a month tier gets one of these cups a year free.
Every year. But we only have one of each, so like you got access to the cup.
You have access to the cup. No, you have access to the hat. I'll go to Loblaws. These are relatively cheap. You can buy one for about $4 or $5. I don't mind doing that, especially for someone who's paying $40 a month. Like that's a that's
for 40 months.
That's a ripoff. It's like almost $500 a year, and you're getting what, a $5 cup, access to the hat, premium content, like what, like $40 a month. That's like fucking Netflix, Disney Plus, HBO, and it's like, no, you get access to the hat. So least I can do, take a trip to Loblaws, buy one of these, send it out. Hello. All right, we're in.
Can you just make it look like mine?
Like, I'm so concerned with it, and then I fucking completely bury it.